Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, click on the link in the description below and let's just get right into it. So, if you've ever had a pet before or you currently have a pet, then you know how terrifying it can be when something happens to them. So imagine how I felt when I walked outside on September 14th, 2017 to determine that my dog was gone. So at that time, we lived right next to a playground attached to a school building. And our dog loved to play with the kids there, and they loved to play with him. So every day, like clockwork, we would bring him outside, sit him in the back porch, and let them come over to play with him. It was great. It was a great way to socialize him, and everything worked out just fine. But on September 14th, my mom ran across the street to go to the store. I was in the bathroom and he was alone on the back porch for 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, she walked up, she grabbed him, and she left. Now, we still don't know who she is, and we didn't know at the time that he'd been stolen. What we did think was that he ran away. So what we did was we looked everywhere, we tried to find him, and when we couldn't, we came to the conclusion that he had in fact been stolen. So the first thing we did was we called the police. Now, because my mom paid $40 for him when she first got him as a puppy, the police did not think that it was worth putting resources into looking for him. The next thing we did was we contacted the landlord to see if he would let us look at the camera footage. Now, the building has several cameras around here because it is private property. But the only person who can access those cameras are the landlord. So we called him and he said no. Not because he didn't like Duke, but because he owned several properties at that time and he was bouncing back and forth fixing things for different tenants and he was just exhausted. So he said he would come by the next morning, which meant I had to spend all night worrying about what would happen to Duke. And if you've ever lost a pet, then you can understand the worry, the fear, and how terrifying it feels to just have to wait and see if something happens. So the next day, the landlord shows up, he shows us the footage, and this is what we see. Now, we were kind of hoping we would have a photo to give to the police, but obviously you can see that there was no way that was going to happen. But we did have a general direction that she went in. So we took as many people as we could and we searched in that direction. We talked to store owners, we talked to neighbors. I got to meet several people who don't speak English who came from Africa. It was very hard to talk to them. So, by the way, here's some advice. If you're going to talk to someone who doesn't speak English, don't use Google Translate. Don't do it. Don't do it. But they hadn't seen her and they hadn't seen Duke. But it got the word out, and slowly people in the neighborhood were starting to look for him, just like us. And that led me to Facebook. I put a post up on Facebook. I pled with the community to help us find Duke, and within hours, people were answering back saying that they were going to look. Some people swore they saw him 3 towns over, so we went that way to look. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, but with the help of so many different people, we were able to narrow down a certain location 30 minutes away from here that he probably could have been. So we went there and we looked around, and my sister went to a shelter. She asked them if they had Duke, and their answer was no. So that was unfortunate at the time, but fortunately, later on, about a couple days later, they called back and said they did have Duke, but he was labeled under Poodle, so they didn't know they had a Chihuahua at the time. Why he was labeled under a Poodle? Who knows? How is it difficult to determine a Poodle from a Chihuahua? I will never know, but thankfully, my sister was able to get up there with her boyfriend and bring Duke back down. And here's a picture of him when we got him back. People at the shelter said that the lady tried to take Duke home with her, but he didn't recognize his surroundings, so the first thing he did was bite her. And so she was forced to drop him, and he took off running. Unfortunately, he didn't know where he was, so he did not return home. He just ran around in the neighbors' backyards until she finally caught up with him a couple days later. Now, from what we were told, she stuffed him in a pillowcase and then put him in the back of her car and then took him down to the shelter. Now, the good thing about taking him to the shelter was after they ran tests to see if he had rabies, they were not able to give Duke back to her because she didn't have proof of ownership, which meant he wasn't hers. So after a few days of him sitting in that kennel, my sister was finally able to get up there, and when she brought him home, we quickly discovered the consequences of what she did. He had a cold from one of the dogs at the shelter. He was also very wary of people, so it took weeks of medication, treatment, and coaxing to get him back outside and to like kids. But now he's loving, he's still wary of some people. He does bark a lot at people he doesn't know, but he's the same dog he was before he left. I'm very thankful that we got him back because some people never find their dogs or their pets or whatever. They never find them. And I'm very thankful that I never had to experience that. I just wanted to let you guys know about this because I know that Duke is very important to me, so I can just about imagine how important your guys' pets are to you, and I don't want you to ever have to experience something like me, so please don't take your eyes off your pets. If you have a pet, let me know his name or her name down below, and if anything like this has ever happened to you before, comment down below. I would love to talk about it. Otherwise, thank you for watching, thank you for listening to me, and I'll see you Wednesday.